risks to your retirement. We will discuss that in detail on today's program, Financial Focus, with the founder and CEO of GulfCoast Financial Services, John Kuykendall. GulfCoast Financial Services has been named Best of the Best in Financial Services 9 straight years and running by the readers of the Lake City Reporter, and they have been serving North Central Florida savers and investors for more than 31 years in achieving and formulating your financial goals in a written plan, ladies and gentlemen, the financially focused written retirement plan. John, we always appreciate your time here on the program, and that plan strives to help individual savers and investors, those goal-oriented financial minds out there, to address these top risks that we will be discussing today.
Yeah, that's right, Peter. And these risks are so important. I thought this was a great show. I was meeting with a client this morning, and we were actually going over these risks when we talked about him and why he needs to plan, because they're really important. And I think that these risks will bring out a lot of things that people need to be aware of, especially as, inflation's up, things are higher. Consumer prices, while the inflation number was 3, almost 4, I read the other day that prices have actually gone up 19.1% from January to January. So that's a huge increase.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and then we've got to buy things. We've got expenses that are known. We've got unknown expenses in retirement, but they are getting more expensive on either side. And we've got a long time to try to make that money last as things are getting more expensive. In fact, John, stats show that a 65-year-old couple, married couples at age 65, have a 50% chance of living to 92. So we do need to plan for, that means half live more than 92. We've got to plan for that 30-year retirement. And risk number one is you may outlive your money. That is a serious concern for retirees.
Well, that's the major one concern for retirees, is that they're going to outlive their money. And so, in today's marketplace, with the fluctuations that we're seeing in the market, with all the things that are going on, it certainly doesn't, it isn't good for everybody to have all their money in one basket, and we need to diversify. By 2046, Peter, it's projected that there will be 600,000 people over the age of 100 in the United States.
Wow. And that is, by the way, the year that the baby boomers start achieving that age of 100, right?
Yeah. But, the thing about it is there's only, in 2010, there was only 90,000. So you can see that this generation, the baby boomers, are certainly moving into that longevity. And as Tom Higley has said, longevity is the number one risk that we're going to face. The ninth wonder of the world is longevity.
Yep. It is the risk multiplier. All of the other risks, it impacts them exponentially. The likelihood that we will see market fluctuations, the likelihood that inflation will impact us, the likelihood of tax law and legislative changes are all multiplied the longer we live, and therefore make it increasingly that much more difficult. And we still have those expenses that we've got to cover. To make the money last is a big concern. And then systemically, John, we're looking at the risk our nation faces as well. It's something that we've got to consider in our own personal planning as well. Risk number 2, the U.S. national debt. How does this one play in?
Well, the thing about it is, Peter, is the national debt has tripled in the last 15 years. We're over $33 trillion in national debt and growing.
By the time we air this, it'll be much more than that.
It'll be much more than that. You have to go to the debt time clock, and see what it is.
Scary.
But, the thing, in order to reduce the debt and create a surplus, we have to either have higher revenue, taxes, or we have to cut expenditures. And I haven't seen the government lately cut spending.
No.
So we think, because our current laws, tax laws, sunset in December of 25, that we're going to see new tax legislation that's going to increase rates. And so as tax rates go up and as other things get taxed, then that's going to take a toll on the amount of money that we have to spend because we're going to be paying more in taxes. Certainly, we're at the lowest tax bracket we're ever going to be in. I mean, right now is a fire sale on taxes, but it's going up. And so we need to do everything we can to make sure that we do the smartest tax planning, the smartest ways to take money out of our accounts so that we can make our money last longer. Right now, I think the government debt is 70% of the national budget, higher than the defense budget. So naturally, we need to do everything we can to cut taxes and be ready to pay more because taxes are going up.
And according to the 2022 Congressional Budget Office report, the 2023 one is not out yet, but the latest one that we have, basically before Congress even took a seat, we spent just about all of our tax revenue in non-discretionary, obligatory spending. So things that they could not control. And then when they did take a seat, they spent a whole lot more than that. So we do need to worry about that national debt and what that is going to do to our personal finances. It will impact it, John, like risk number 3, which is Social Security. That they go hand in hand, don't they?
They really do. You know, Social Security right now is supposedly going to run out of money in 2033. They'll only have 70 cents on the dollar to hand out. And so something's going to have to be done with Social Security, and that's going to affect retirees and how much money they have to give. And, you know, one of the things that we need to think about too, Peter, is we need to do a little bit of holistic planning when we're talking about Social Security, because we're looking at, you know, when a spouse dies, where the other spouse has got a 40% cut in their budget. And so we need to make sure that we are planning for to leave the best legacy that we can to that surviving spouse. And certainly Social Security falls into that. It's a lifetime pension that the government's going to give us, but, you know, we've earned it. But you know, it's in trouble. The ratio of receivers versus workers is decreasing. This year, I think in 2023, we actually paid out more money than we took in. And so we can't keep doing that forever. Things are going to have to change. You may see a cut in your Social Security check. And are you ready for that if that happens?
Yeah. And I know a politician, Nikki Haley, recently came out and said that Social Security full retirement age needed to move back to 70. It was not warmly welcomed and received when she stated that. But the bottom line, John, that doesn't have to be when you retire. That is when the Social Security system would deem you fully eligible potentially, right? She's talking about moving it back from currently 67. But if you want to retire before that, you've got to plan very carefully on your own. I was surprised by the stat, John, that 90% of Social Security funding came from payroll taxes. Now, this is a system that has been around since 1935. You think with 89 years or so of compound growth, that more of it could be funded from the growth on the trust fund, but they've not kept that in safekeeping.
Well, Peter, you know, the thing about it is we've expanded who gets the money. And so it's not just retirees that are drawing from the Social Security system. And so we have to keep that in mind, because that other SSI payments, they're also increasing. So it's not just the retirees that are getting money out of the Social Security system. There are a lot more people dipping into it, and it's creating a lot of problems because that number is not going down either.
Yeah, in 1945, the ratio of those who were paying in to those collecting was 41.9 to every one person collecting benefits. I forget whether it was 2 or 3 workers per one recipient now, but it is a far skewed off of those numbers that supported the system, 50, 60 years ago. Risk number 4, John, again, it is one of those retirement entitlements and support systems that we have in place that we've got to consider how stable and solvent it is, Medicare, and then how are we going to plan and pay for unplanned healthcare expenses?
Well, first of all, Peter, just like Social Security, Medicare is in trouble of being able to fund their liabilities about the same time, or a little bit before actually, than Social Security. So the Medicare system has to be reworked. There's a problem with the amount of funding that we have in it. So I think that, those of us who have saved and put away money and the ones that are doing the planning need to be ready to not be able to get as much paid out on Social Security as we or Medicare as we currently are. We may have to assume more of that health care liability, and we need to be ready for that. But the other thing you mentioned, which is the 90-pound elephant in the room, is the fact that Medicare doesn't cover long-term care. And as I was talking to the client this morning, there is no way to get long-term care unless we do some type of hybrid product, either life insurance or an annuity with a long-term care rider on it. And so we need to do those planning and do those things we need to do to make sure that we can cover ourselves, because, we don't want to spend all of our money on one spouse and then have the other spouse destitute because they don't have the money left over after a long-term care illness. Long-term care costs aren't going down either.
Yeah.
So, we need to do everything we can to possibly plan for this. And it is a situation where, we're going to have to pay more of the pie ourselves.
Yeah, certainly both spouses, both members, and really the entire total family can suffer, not only mentally, emotionally, psychologically, but financially, with just one person in the family, and certainly within the married couple having those healthcare events. It can basically lay ruin to even a otherwise well-funded and well-constructed financial plan, if not specifically planned, prepared for, and addressed. And John, circling back to what you started this conversation of these risks with inflation, those healthcare expenses in particular, inflating at a faster rate than almost any other expenses. We may argue that on a daily basis going to the grocery store, but when we see how much those healthcare related end of life and long-term care healthcare expenses have gone up, inflation, both specifically for that, and then in the general sense are big issues that we need to address.
Yes. I mean, the thing is, Peter, is that long-term medical costs have been going up faster than inflation for many years. And that's still continuing, because with the rise in interest rates for facilities that they're having to pay out for the building of these facilities, also for the higher labor costs, the labor shortage, all the stuff that they're going through, costs are going up, and if they're going up faster than inflation. And so we need to be ready for that. But, when we talk about inflation, we're talking about risk number 5, inflation. And I think we've all seen it. I mean, I remember that in 1955, my dad bought our first and only new car, and it was a Chevrolet, 55 Chevrolet 210, which was the second, the middle one, not the lowest one, but not the highest one. And we paid $2,500 for it. I bought a 67 Volkswagen for $2,500 brand new. So, I mean, now a truck is $90,000, Peter. Costs keep going up. Inflation keeps going up. Every time I go to the grocery store, the bag is less full, but the cost is more.
Yep. Actually, my first car, John, was a 1987 Volkswagen. Now, it was used. I bought it for $2,200. And a friend of mine was asking, are cars good investments? I went and looked that one up the other day, speaking of inflation, and I held on to that 1987 VW. Today, I could have sold it for around $35,000 to $40,000 if it was still in shape. But those kind of appreciating vehicles are kind of a rarity, abnormality rather than the norm. What struck me about the stats on risk number 5, though, inflation, John, is the stat that in 20 years, at just 3% inflation, if it costs us $5,000 to live today, in 20 years, those same expenses will cost us more than $9,000. Now,
almost twice.
Almost twice. But I thought back to 20 years ago, how many extra things, not just the same things that I was buying 20 years ago, but how many extra things have been added to the budget as well. So it's not just the inflation, it's the consumerism and the continued need to purchase even new things above what we used to.
Well, it's the internet. I mean, we have to have internet. Nobody can stand to live anymore without being able to have, Wi-Fi.
The cell phone, the data plan, the
Yeah,
identity theft protection,
Netflix, you name it.
all of the streaming services. Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
yep,
I
and
mean,
they know how to nickel and dime you for everything.
the budget has gotten a lot bigger for those things. Now, we can cut those things back, Peter, but the idea always was that we wanted to be able to have a good retirement, a decent retirement that was fulfilling. And I don't think sitting at home in the dark is going to be fulfilling for very long. And so we're going to want to do things. And as we go from the go-go years to the slow go, we're still spending money. So we've got to get that inflation and realize that the 3% inflation, that's not where we are. We're higher than that. So we're going to need more money. It's going to take twice as much now in 20 years to retire. And
Yep.
so if we need to start saving, we need to start planning, and we need to start working on that budget.
Well, number 6 on the list of those retirement risks, John, is everything else. And we never know what the future holds. Market volatility, cybersecurity, data breaches, underfunded pensions, geopolitical risk, pandemics. Like there's a lot that could go into that number 6, everything else, right? But that's why you've got that specific planning process and you help people write and record the written, financially focused retirement plan.
Well, that's right. And what's so important about that plan is that we look at taxes, we look at Social Security, we look at Medicare, we look at all the things that we need to do to make a really holistic plan to give you the best job we can give so that you can have the most successful retirement you can have. And I don't know how anybody without a GPS or without a map is going to go anywhere, especially in retirement. We need a map. And that financially focused income plan is your map. We're going to make sure that, every bucket, the 3 buckets, the growth bucket, the income bucket, and the cash bucket are all full, and that we're doing the best job we can to maximize everything. And we're going to put all that out. The software is available now. Everything's here. It's really in plain English. All you got to do is look at it. We tweak it, we go over it, and then we constantly monitor it every year.
Well, remember, ladies and gentlemen, you want to stay financially focused. You got to have that plan in place. And quitting is for winners, but retirement is not for wimps. That's the book by John Kuykendall that addresses many of these risks and what proactive planners, successful planners, and retirees are doing to address these critical risks that every plan really must address for modern retirement. If you'd like a copy of that book, or if you'd like to get your own financially focused written retirement plan, pick up the phone now and give Gulf Coast Financial Services a call, 386-755-9018. That is 386-755-9018, 386-755-9018. Or you can go online, gulfcoastfinancial.net, gulfcoastfinancial.net. Great resources available online as always, and 24 hours a day available there at gulfcoastfinancial.net. Or again, to get your own specific individual written financially focused retirement plan or a copy of John's book, Quitting is for Winners, but Retirement's Not for Wimps, pick up the phone and give a call. 386-755-9018, 386-755-9018. John, I really like this guide, the Retire Ready guide, and we'll probably do a few more shows on some of the topics that are described and discussed in this guide.
I believe so, Peter. I really like this. I think this is very pertinent to what's going on now in the world and in our own lives. And I think we can get a couple of more shows out of here that are going to be really helpful to the people listening out there.
Well, if you've got questions, if you'd like a copy of the guide, I'm sure John can email that out to you, or a link to where you can grab your own copy of the Retire Ready guide. And we do want to be ready for retirement, ladies and gentlemen. We want to be as prepared as possible. You need a plan, the financially focused written retirement plan. And John's book will help you get there as well. Quitting is for winners, but retirement's not for wimps. Call now to request your copy and your plan document, the specific written plan. 386-755-9018, 386-755-9018. John, as always, it was a pleasure, is a pleasure every time we get to share some time with you. Thank you for being here as the resource.
Thank you, Peter. It was great being here. See you next week. Have a good week. Hey, if you'd like a copy of our new book, Quitting is for Winners, but Retirement's Not for Wimps, I encourage you to click the link below and get your copy today. Hey, we like it when you listen to the show, but we like it better when you like, share, subscribe, or feel free to leave a comment.
Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and tune in for more financial focus by visiting GulfCoastFinancial.net. The information presented on this program is provided for informational purposes only, without warranty of accuracy, completeness, or suitability for a particular purpose. This program is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. This information is general in nature and not specific enough to be construed as advice. You should not make any decision based on the information presented on this program without independent consultation with an appropriately licensed professional or competent advisor. Investment in securities or the market involves a potential risk for loss of principal. Trading, therefore, may not be suitable for all listeners. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals of growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the product's features and costs. Early withdrawals may subject the owner to penalties, fees, or taxes. John Kuykendall is registered with and securities are offered through Kovac Securities, Inc., member FINRA SIPC, found online at www.kovacsecurities.com. Advisory services are offered through GulfCoast Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor in Florida. GulfCoast Financial Services, Inc. is not affiliated with Kovac Securities, Inc. or Kovac Advisors, Inc. Past performance is not indicative of future results. All investing involves risk. Investment decisions should be based on your own goals, time horizon, and tolerance for risk. Due to various factors, including changing market conditions and/or applicable laws, the content may no longer be reflective of current opinions or positions.